As you know, the market waves as it moves. What if we could show you the high probability of how it's going to wave, where it begins and where it ends? That's the power of the Fibonacci's. The amazing part about the Fibonacci's is they appear everywhere in our lives. They appear in nature, in flowers, pineapples, pine cones. They even appear in our bodies. And believe it or not, they control a large part of the price movement in the market. So let's get started about learning how the Fibonacci's work. So let's talk about the Fibonacci's and how they're found everywhere. See, the Fibonacci sequence is literally found in everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I'm talking about everywhere. One of the neatest things you can do is go and Google Fibonacci's in flower petals. Go Google Fibonacci's in animals, in pineapples, in pine cones, in branches. Even branches many times, like the sneezewort branch, it'll grow in a Fibonacci sequence. Go Google about how the Fibonacci's exist in our own bodies and piano keys and the vibrations of pianos. Have you ever been listening to music and all of a sudden you start to get goosebumps from the music? It's usually because the pianist has played two keys that are naturally harmonious in a Fibonacci sequence, and the body has an effect to that sound when two keys are played at Fibonacci numbers. And so if you go and you look inside the human body, you look in architecture, and we're going to be discussing the market. But to really give you a foundation and a belief into the Fibonacci sequence, into the market, do yourself a favor and Google some of these. It will make you a believer in the Fibonacci sequence in the market. So let's get started in talking about the Fibonacci relationships in the market. See, when the market starts to move, there are key Fibonacci numbers that you are going to need to memorize and know. One is called the 236, which represents 24%. I'll be explaining this here shortly. The other one is a 382, which represents 38%. The next one is a 50, which represents 50%. The next one is a 618. Now, as we go through this, I want you to look at the colors, because usually on most software packages, if you will, or charting packages, you will see that the Fibonacci sequence of the 236, 382, 50, and 618 will be in red. Now, it has a corresponding Fibonacci sequence number, which is called an extension, and that extension is a 1.618 extension. So these four levels are considered retracement levels, and this one level is considered an extension level. Now there's another Fibonacci number, which is called the 786. You can see that it's been put in blue, because if the market goes down to the 786, it's going to only rally to the 127. And then we have our last Fibonacci number inside an AB boundary or a price swing, which is called the 86. It's in green because its extension is 1.8. Now let me explain to you how this all works in the market. What you have is you have the market moving up in an uptrend. It creates an AB boundary. That AB boundary is considered 0 to 100%. It doesn't matter how big the swing is. The swing could be 50 pips. The swing could be 100 pips. The swing could be 158 pips. It could be 500 pips. It doesn't matter numerically how big the swing is, because it will represent 0 to 100%. Now, what we have here is we have our Fibonacci retracement levels and extension levels. Now let's numerically and spatially put this together. You have an AB boundary in an up price swing, okay? You have a rally, a retracement, and an extension. That's how all this works. And you will see that the market predominantly moves within a Fibonacci sequence. Now, these are your retracement levels. What does this mean? Some people are challenged with spatial intelligence and they really can't understand numerical numbers and they can't understand how it comes back. But I want you to envision this as being 0 to 100%. If the market came all the way back down, just like this, all the way back down, it would come back 100%. Do you understand that? It rallied 100%, regardless of how big the swing is, rallied 100%, and then it retraces back 100%. Now, if the market only comes to the 2-3, see how these four numbers are in red? If the market comes back and bounces at the 2-3, the 382, the 50, or the 618 at any one of these numbers, it has a high probability of rallying to the 1.618. Now, let's look at the extensions. Extensions mean there is a 118, a 127, and a 618. These three, if the market comes back and bounces at any one of these three, it's going to rally to the 1.618. If it goes deeper, it's going to go to and goes to the 786. It'll bounce at the 786 and only rally to the 127. Why is that? Because the market is motion and energy. I'll be showing you why this happens this way. But if it goes to the 86 green, it's going to rally to the 1.18 green extension and then pull back. So what you have here is you have retracement levels. Once again, the market has pulled back 24% here, pulled back 38% here, pulled back 50% here, pulled back 62% here, pulled back 79% here from this top, pulled back 86% here. And if it came back 100%, it would come all the way to here. Now, these extensions, what do they represent? It says 1.18, 1.27, that's 127%. 1.618, that's 162%. In other words, it is 18% higher than the B high. 18% higher. This is 27% higher than the B high. This is 62% higher than the B high. So if you measured the total from the bottom to the top, you would have 162%. If you measured from this low to this high, that would be 127%. This low to this high, that would be 118%, and this low to the B high, you'd have 100%. So once again, these are your retracement levels. These are your extension levels. So if the market came back and hit any one of these red levels, it will bounce and predominantly go to the 1.618 extension, which means once you understand where the potential C is to get in, then you can also project where you should get out via the Fibonacci sequence. I'm going to give you a little golden nugget, and you may want to write this down in your journal of lessons learned. But here's a golden nugget. As the market starts to retrace, you can almost figure out where the bounce is going to be. Because as you look back inside an AB boundary, as you look back and you find your different levels of past resistance to become future support, the lowest level of past resistance to become future support will predominantly be where the bounce will be to go back up. Now, it's amazing. You learn that in the lesson of support and resistance, how when the market starts to rally, it usually bounces at past resistance to create future support. So when you see an AB boundary and the market's retracing, just go back, find your 1 or 2 or 3 levels of past resistance, and the lowest level of past resistance will usually be where the bounce is going to be. That's a golden nugget that could really change things for you when it comes time to trading. But I'm here to teach you that the market moves predominantly in a Fibonacci sequence. If it bounces at this 618, reds for red, blue for blue, green for green. So let's get and understand that when the market retraces, see, there's more sellers than buyers, more sellers than buyers, more sellers than buyers, until the bulls step in and support the price. That's where the term support comes from. They support the price, and then the market starts to rally. Prices get too high, and bulls resist. They resist buying, and so that's where the term resistance comes from. So in an uptrend, you need to understand that your Fibonacci retracement levels are support, and your extension levels are resistance. Now, as the market moves, let's look at it in actual candlesticks. When the market changes directions by breaking a trend line over the candlesticks, and you've broken a down trend line, then you all of a sudden have a new up AB boundary. The market is no longer making lower lows and lower highs. A new high has just been made. That's a sign that the market is reversing. Now you have what's called an up price swing. In this up price swing, you have your AB boundary, and you have your Fibonacci retracement levels, and you have your extension levels. Now, this example here, let's look at past resistance to become future support, and let's look at this trend line break, and we have past resistance here to become future support. Let's watch what this market does. This market comes down, bounces at a 2-3, which is past resistance to become future support, takes out a B high. Now, here's another golden nugget. You may want to write this down. 90% of the time, the market will retrace to a minimum of a 382. A minimum of a 382. 90% of the time. So if you ever see the market being real aggressive, and the market only retraces back to the 2-3, and then takes out the B high, it will find resistance. It will find resistance at either the 118 or the 127. Now, when a trader finds that the market has found resistance at the 118 or the 127 extension, and the market creates a bearish candlestick formation at that extension. Now, let me ask you this question. If it bounces at this red, 2-3, 382, 50, 618, where should it naturally go as far as its extension? Shouldn't it go to the 1.618? So what we have here is we have the market retrace back to a 2-3, didn't go deeper, went up to a 127. The final target is the 1.618. But when the market rallied up to a 127 and formed a bearish candlestick formation, that became a sign to the trader that the market's going to go a little deeper inside the AB boundary. This is a great place to scalp the market. And so one of the things you need to understand is your candlestick formations. The beautiful part about the market is it talks. It tells the trader what it's going to do via the Fibonacci sequence, via past resistance to become future support, via the candlestick formations. It tells the trader what it's going to do. Now here it comes down to a 382, bounces, but more importantly, what's right here? This is a bullish piercing line, which is a sign that this market is beginning to rally. Now remember, from this original AB, okay, we saw this, we are anticipating the market to come deeper into the AB boundary, comes down here, forms a bullish candlestick formation, piercing line, which is a sign that it's time to buy this market and take the ride all the way up to resistance, okay? This then becomes support, and this is our target up here into resistance. Now, if by chance the market comes down and takes out this supporting line and creates an additional candlestick formation, this is a morning star right here, and creates a morning star, you then have to move your C from here to here. Do you see how we thought this is where the market was going to bounce, but it literally came down a little deeper? Now, two things here I want to talk about. If you bought this candlestick formation and you put a stop just a little bit lower than the candlestick formation, you just got stopped out, didn't you? And if this market's in an uptrend, you know that somewhere inside this AB boundary, this market's going to bounce, creating a higher low, which then will take off to the D extension. See, a trader really doesn't know where the actual bounce is going to be. And so we rely on counter trend line breaks. Right here, there has not been a counter trend line break. We rely on candlestick formations to tell us where the potential C is going to be. We rely on past resistance to become future support. But at some point in time, this market is going to form a C. Now, if it forms a C at any one of these three reds, the red target is resistance. That's the 1.618 is where the market will rally, hit that level. Buyers will resist buying a D extension will appear right here. And so what we have here is we finally have a counter trend line break. We have a candlestick formation that takes this up all the way to the D extension. And at the D extension, what do we get? A bearish candlestick formation. And so this is so totally fascinating to me that a trader can basically predict where to get in by using the technical tools we're teaching you, applying the Fibonacci's, projecting the target to get out. Every trader that buys a retracement, depending on where it bounces, should get out about 10 pips in front of the D extension because of the bid-ask spread. You want to make sure that the market goes through your bid-ask spread to fulfill your trade. So this is where you end up buying, selling. If you bought here and another bullish candlestick formation appears, you have to have the courage to get back in as a trader. You don't want to just sit there like a deer in headlights and watch the market pay off the trader that had the courage to get back in when another candlestick formation appeared. However, if when you bought any one of these levels, whether you limited in at any one of these levels or got in at a counter trend line break or got in at a candlestick formation, if you had put your stop below the A, were you stopped out? No, you weren't. Even if you bought this level and your stop was below the A, were you stopped out before you profit took? The answer is no. So learning where to put your protective stops is really, really important because it can participate in helping you become more profitable if you know where to place your stops. And so let's take a look here at how the market moves in motion and energy. Now, I want you to envision me holding a tennis ball. And I hold this tennis ball at a certain level. I'm going to hold it right here at this little bench here. I'm going to hold it at the same level right here, and I'm going to hold it at the same level right here. And I'm going to let go of the tennis ball with the same motion and energy at all three levels. Now watch what happens. I have the tennis ball, I let go of it, okay? And because this was higher, the tennis ball hit the top of this little bench here and then rallied way high. Now, at the same level, look at this, at the same level, I'm going to hold the tennis ball, I'm going to let go, and look at how it doesn't have the energy to go as high. Now, at the same level, I'm going to let go of the tennis ball. It's going to go deeper, but it's not going to have the energy to bounce as high. The amazing part about the Fibonacci's is we have to consider this to be the A-B boundary, this to be the A-B boundary, and this to be the A-B boundary. You need to understand the market is motion and energy. The higher the bench, or if the market were to bounce at a 382, the 2-3, the 382, or the 5-0, it's going to go high. But if it goes down to a 618, it's going to go to the 1.618. See, if it bounces here and starts to go through to the 1.618, it will have additional energy to even go through the 1.618 by about 10 or 15%. But if it comes down to the 618, even sometimes the 50, it'll bounce here and only have the energy to go to the 1.618. And here, it'll have the energy to only go up to here. The deeper it goes, the less energy it has to go up. So let's take a look at these Fibonacci's here. Now what we have here is we have an AB boundary, we have our Fibonacci's, and then we have the market come down and bounce at a 382. Now what did I say? A shallow retracement creates high energy. The market has a high probability of even going through the 1.618 by about 10%. Did you see how 10, 15%? It literally went through it. Now the market comes down in an AB boundary to a 5-0 right here at this 5-0. Now let me ask you before I show you, where, if you got in at a 5-0, where are you going to profit take? You're going to profit take at about 10 pips before it hits the 1.618, because it will be projected to go to the 1.618, hit that ceiling of resistance, and then pull back. Now what we have here is we have an AB boundary, and we have the market pulling back to a 618. Based on what you've been taught so far, where would you profit take if you got in at a 618? You would profit take 10 pips right at the 1.618, 10 pips before the market hits the 1.618. Now, if you're looking at the market and the market retraces deeper, because we got motion and energy, and you see that it goes to the 786, where then are you going to profit take? Are you going to get out 10 pips before it hits the 1.618? Because if you profit take or try to profit take 10 pips before the 1.618, seeing that it went deeper, you're going to watch the market go up, hit the 1.27, and then start to retrace back down because you missed your target. That's why we have this color coded: red for red, blue for blue, green for green. Does that make sense? And if the market goes deeper to the 8.6, let's look at it as it goes to the 8.6, where then would you profit take as a trader? You would profit take 10 pips before it hit the 1.8. So look at the market, hits the 1.8 and retraces back. So it becomes very critical that you find the C and that you enter at one of these levels, and based on how deep it goes will determine what extension level you'll be using to get out for profit. Now, let me ask you a question. Regardless of where it bounced, if your stop loss order was below the A, if it was below the A, did you get stopped out in any one of these sequences? No, you did not. Now, here's an amazing one.